but they did this study on all these Catholic parishes in the U.S., and it revealed the 7%, what we call now the 7%, and that was that 7% do almost all, like 90% of the giving and like 90% of the volunteering. So you have the 7% that now we kind of recognize as the most engaged, group of people within a church community. And what was so surprising, of course, is that it's such a small amount. I mean, everyone has a sense that there's some people that do more and give more than others, and then there's people across the whole spectrum there. But when you really looked at the numbers, it was 7% that did 90% of the giving and the financial support and volunteer support at a given parish. And so it was really eye-opening. But I think what we've started to realize that the important group we need to talk about is the 82%. So that's what we want to spend time talking about today, because we learned this firsthand when we first started Flocknote, over 10 years ago now. Is trying to figure out how do you reach most people at a church, and it's easy to reach the 7%, because they open the bulletin, they listen to announcements, they go to your website on their own, they'll download your app, they'll do all those things. But trying to reach everybody else was the challenge, and that's how Flocknote developed into really focusing on email and texting. But this applies to all ways that we're trying to communicate and reach and engage our people. And so I want to run through these real quick today, because I think like these terms, the 7%, the 82%, these need to be part of the normal vernacular among your staff. All of your ministry leaders should know what you mean. And I'll tell you why this is so important. I got my trusty whiteboard here, Matt.
Who needs slides?
To help demonstrate here. So you'll have to forgive my handwriting, but I think it helps to visualize this. So if you here's how it kind of breaks down. You have, that's all your people. Over here you have your 7%, okay? And this is actually, we combined a bunch of studies when we did our research to really understand all of this. So this is some CARA studies and some Pew Research studies that kind of pulled this in. But so then on the other end you have 11%. But let me talk about this first. So the 7%, these are your people, as we just talked about. Let's call them already engaged, okay? So again, these people do 90% of the giving, 90% of the volunteering. They're engaged. And why this is so important, especially right now, is because, of course, with all the COVID lockdowns and restrictions, we're realizing that there's huge portions of our people that may not be coming back because they've developed new habits. Maybe their attachment to our community was really weak in the first place. And so this is why it's really important to understand this, because the 7% are largely back, if they can be. They're doing whatever within whatever restrictions there are, but they're wanting to be there. They're motivated. On the other hand, you have the 11% on this end, and these people, even pre-COVID, never show up. So these are the people that would still identify as Catholic or a part of your faith, but never show up anyway. There's actually a whole huge other group way out here, which we can talk about another time, but that no longer actually associate or identify with any particular religion, or especially not a Christian denomination. And so that's another evangelization problem for another time. But within our communities, we have 11% who never show up. We have 7% who show up all the time and do almost everything. And in the middle, you have what we call the 82%. So the 82% generally sometimes show up. Okay, so they sometimes show up. Now, some of them actually show up every week, but they're not giving, they're not volunteering, they're not coming to extra events and things like that. But the vast majority of them are maybe coming every other week, once a month. Maybe they're just coming on Christmas, Easter, times like that. But here's the distinction, though, is that they are still showing up, pre-COVID anyways. They were still sitting down next to us in the pews. They were still listening to us speak to them on Sunday. And so they're still showing up. But here's the problem with the 82% right now, is that they are en masse drifting out of the church. So there's 6 that leave for every 1 that join in general. So again, that big group I talked about out here that is no longer affiliated, of course, they step through here first where they're no longer showing up, but still associate themselves with you or identify as part of your church. But then they move on from there and eventually are becoming this group out here of atheists or non-religiously affiliated people is growing like crazy in America. And that's the trend. So the 82% are largely drifting out of your church right now. And I want to talk a little bit about why, because again, this is becoming very apparent right now as we try to bring people back in, that like huge portions of this, we're not sure if they're going to come back at all because they're not as motivated as like the 7% were to be a part of the community. So, but this is kind of the idea of why I think church leaders continue to fail to reach this 82% group. So if you think about it, like a lot of our channels we choose to communicate with as a church, we say, well, we want to get digital. We need to reach young people. We need to reach people we're not reaching. Let's get on social media. Well, who follows your church on social media? The 7%. How about we're going to get our own app? Well, who downloads your app? It's the 7%. We want to get these great on-demand content platforms. It's like Netflix that, for your faith, for Catholics or for whatever, for Christians. And we're going to provide that to all of our members, and they're going to really like that. Or maybe it's like a study program, a Bible study, or something else we have going on that we think are going to help feed these people to get them more excited. The trouble is that all of these things are things the 7% like and do and are willing to participate in, but they only end up reaching the 7%. And so we get caught in this feedback loop. Again, why? Because probably most people listening to this are part of the 7%. We're engaged. We love our faith. We get involved. We are willing to spend multiple nights a week being involved, helping out around our church community. We will like our church on social media. We will download the app. We will go log in somewhere to try to engage more and learn about our faith. We'll go out of our way to read books and learn more about the things we care about. We'll participate in these study programs, but they only end up reaching the 7% because the ways we do it, the level at which we do it, the channels we choose are things that we would do. And of course, all the complaints we get are from the 7%. All the people giving the money are from the 7%. So we naturally have this very skewed view or we see everything through this lens of the 7%. And the trouble is we're not reaching the 82%. So how do we reach the 82%? Is something we need to, as a step one. Now we're going to spend some more episodes talking about some of this kind of stuff, but number one, you have to figure out how to communicate with them. So that's choosing different types of channels that the 82% are going to actually engage in, and that is email and texting for sure. And we've shown that and proven that over years and years of working with this. If you want to reach this group, they have to be able to do it without jumping through a lot of hoops. And two, how do you engage them? What do you do to spark interest with them? And so, again, you can implement lots of different programs. You can send lots of different content, but the point is are you doing it for the 82% or the 7%? And so the point for this episode, again, we could spend so much more time on this, is your staff should know the difference between these groups. When you guys are having a meeting and you come up with an idea, you should be able to say, is that for the 7%? They need things too, and we need to nourish them and engage them too. But that's not the problem we have in the church right now. The problem is we're not reaching these folks. And so we have to figure out how do we say the right things, speak the right language, speak on a level that's for the 82%. And so when we're coming up with projects again, or programs, or sending out a communication, we should be saying, now, are we speaking to the 7% or are we speaking to the 82%? Is this going to serve the 82% or is that going to serve the 7%? And it's a really helpful distinction to make. And I think once you start to do that, now we have a shot at actually really reaching these people because we're being intentional about what we're trying to do. And again, this isn't going to solve all our problems at all, but it starts with acknowledging the group and being able to name them, the 82% in a sense, although it's a very diverse group in itself. So this is a very crude, simple way of looking at this. But this is where you have opportunities to engage them further and then hopefully build deeper relationships with them through that. But you got to be able to communicate with them first and know who you're really trying to reach.